So when
Mm.
we're in an undesirable circumstance, we have to sit down and create an exit strategy. One of the worst messages we've ever been given about stress is that we should be managing it. You got to manage the stress. You got to be, take time off, breathe, meditate, yoga, count to 10, self-care days, vacation. That's how you manage acute stress. That's what I do in the Mr. Right in this book.
Mm.
Stress management is a thing, but we're
Right.
using it on the wrong problem.
Right.
Okay. So we should not be managing chronic stress. We should be eliminating chronic stress. Elimination of it requires an exit strategy. And what I find stands in the way between somebody and an exit strategy is a decision.
Mm.
It's not that we, in most cases, we don't know what to do, it's that we're avoiding making tough decisions. So we're staying in this gray area and it's causing us to be overwhelmed, right? Because
Right.
you know your options, but you're unwilling to pull the trigger on that thing. And so we need an
Mm.
exit strategy. But then, Harold, here's the end piece. Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health. What's up, podcast listeners? I'm super excited because this month, September, we're officially kicking off the run up and the prep to our next 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar free challenge. And our very first masterclass is coming up on Wednesday, September 25th. And I need you in the room. I've been having a ton of conversations lately with individuals who are chronically stressed. Now, stress is a regular part of life, but chronic stress kills. So this month on Wednesday, September 25th, I'm doing a live complimentary masterclass on how to combat chronic stress. And I need you in the room. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok at Lisa Angel Smith, then you've seen my posts about chronic stress. Maybe you've even been in some of those comment sections and you understand the importance of eliminating chronic stress. I alluded to it on some of those posts. I'm going deep on September 25th. All you need to do to be in the room is make sure you're registered for our next 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. Everyone who's registered for the challenge will automatically receive the Zoom link and the invitation to the masterclass. There is not a separate masterclass registration. You register for the challenge, you're already in. If you're already registered, there's no need to do anything else. If you're not registered for our challenge, click the link here in the show notes. Get registered ASAP so you can get your tail in the room with hundreds of other people as I wax deep about the importance of eliminating chronic stress by creating an exit strategy. I'm going to teach you how to do that on September 25th. Get your tail in the room. Now on to the show. Hey, what's up, podcast listeners? You are in for a treat because this is a super special replay. I recently had the pleasure of being a guest on the Good Living Now podcast hosted by Harold LaFaw. And that episode was so good. We got so much phenomenal feedback from that episode that I wanted to repost it here on my podcast platform. I think you will gain a lot of value out of this episode. Harold asked me some great questions about getting healthy, about what it takes, about who you need to become. And we just delved deep into some really good subjects. I broke down how to eat like you got some sense. It was amazing. It was truly amazing. And so I thought it only right that we repost it here to make sure you get what you need. Listen, if you've already heard this interview, I encourage you to listen to it multiple times. I'm kind of in that season where replays and repetitions is really working for me. So I want to pass that on to you. So even if you've already heard it, listen to it again. I can almost guarantee you're going to hear something this time that you didn't really catch the first time, because what I've learned recently is we learn on a need to know basis. So even when you listen to it again, in many cases, it's going to be like hearing it for the first time. Please enjoy.
Welcome to the Good Living Now podcast, where we talk to real people about real change leading to real health. I am your host, Harold LaFall, and today's conversation is going to be powerful. This young lady, she's just a powerhouse. She's a plant based coach and business coach who lost over 60 pounds and is keeping it off by being plant based. She's going to share with us her journey to wellness and how we can get a little healthier ourselves. Welcome to the show, Lisa Angel Smith. Hey Lisa, how you doing?
Hey, Harold, I'm perfect. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I am so glad to have you on the show. I just recently became familiar with you. I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw this woman who was just dropping all kinds of knowledge. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need to get her on the podcast to share some of this wisdom and insight that she has lived through. It's one thing when you learn something from a book, but it's different when you have lived through something. I'm just so happy to have you on the show because I wanted to first start off with kind of what started you on your wellness journey.
Thank you so much for asking. And the simple, it's two simple answers. I started on my journey to weight loss, Harold, and to becoming optimal. Number one, because of insecurity. So I was sick
Mm,
of not being comfortable in my body and loving the body I was in. And then the second reason was because I got sick of thinking about it. I often tell people I lost weight because I got sick of thinking about losing weight. And I really wanted to buy back my mental real estate. That space could be used for something else. I could be
mm,
creating, I could be praising God, but I'm sick of thinking about this thing. And so the things that began to overwhelm me mentally, I had to do something about so that I could buy back that mental real estate. And so starting on my health and wellness journey in 2012, at about 190 pounds. I was working as a foster care worker at the time for the state of Michigan. And I had a colleague who would come into the break room every morning, Harold, and eat the same thing. And she would
mm.
make a parfait and she had calf muscles and muscles on her arms and she just looked amazing. And I'm like, do you eat the same thing every day? And is that what it takes to get a body like that? Tell me the
Right,
cheat
right,
code.
right, right.
And it turns out she was a personal trainer and she invited me for a session and she invited me
Mm,
for an intake. And it was game over from there. And Coach Tiffany helped me lose my first 30 pounds. And in the fall of that year of 2012, I ended up quitting the state of Michigan and moving to Rome, Italy. And so I continued on my health and wellness journey on my own, lost another 35 pounds. And it's been up ever since, just in the midst of losing the weight, really falling in love with health and wellness, falling in love with my body, gaining a ton of confidence. It sparked
mm,
and it's what helped me find my passion, really. And so I decided to become a personal trainer. And in becoming a personal trainer, I realized I had to learn a lot about nutrition. And I discovered
mm,
this thing called a plant-based diet. And I went plant-based not for personal health reasons. I lost my weight still eating meat and dairy, but I've
mhm,
maintained it, especially my mental clarity, using a whole food plant-based lifestyle. And I retired from personal training, started my first health and wellness company in 2015. Next year to be 10 years we've been in business. And it has been the best roller coaster ride of my life, right?
mm.
Me personally living at my highest vibrational frequency and now being blessed with the assignment of helping other people do the same.
Mm. Wow, that's powerful. You
Mhm.
said you just got tired of the weight taking up mental real estate.
Yes.
And I think that happens for so many people that weight just becomes this big thing. And it almost becomes an obsession, and people will start and then they'll stop and start and stop.
Mm.
Like, for you, what do you think is the key to not getting on that kind of up and down yo yo?
Oh, that's a very simple answer. So, we have a challenge that we do twice a year, 30-day vegan challenge. In the run up to that challenge, we always have a prep month before the actual challenge. In the prep month, they have work to do to prepare for the challenge. And the
Mm,
very first thing I tell them to do in order to avoid the yo yo, in order to avoid the
mhm,
back and forth, and in order to avoid running back to the mess after you've cleaned out and detox, is you have to give your health an assignment. You have to give
mm,
your health an assignment. So what we would like to believe and what will be super cool is that we get healthy just for the sake of being healthy. But it's
Mm,
just, I need to be healthy because I don't, of course, I want to be disease free. Of course, I want to live a long time. But unfortunately, we have proven over and over again that's just not enough to keep us motivated. It's just not
right.
enough to keep us going. And so for me, I have given my health an assignment. So my
Mm,
personal mission and our mission at my company is to extend the healthy life expectancy for marginalized communities. And
mm,
so everyone who is unwell, everyone who's battling chronic lifestyle disease, everyone who's overweight and can't execute on their assignment because their health is not optimal, they are my assignment. So when I get on these stages, when I get on this mic, when I'm coaching, when I'm teaching, my brain has to be super clear. I can't afford sugar. So I don't
mm,
not eat sugar because it could promote cancer. I don't not eat sugar because it is disease promoting and acidic. And all of those things are true. I don't eat sugar because it causes memory loss and I can't afford to compromise the assignment. So
mm,
I encourage everyone to give their health an assignment above and beyond your own personal health and longevity. We would like to believe that's enough. For most of us, it's not.
mm. Wow. Give your journey an assignment.
That's right.
Wow. And where would a person like people always like, okay, well, how do I start? How do I start? That's always the question.
Yeah.
It sounds good, but how do I start?
Yeah. By sitting down and calculating the cost of inaction. So
Ooh,
can
wait
you
a
hear me?
minute. The
Okay. All right.
cost of inaction. Now, wait a
100%.
minute. Wow. Okay. Okay.
That's the key. So when I'm teaching business, it's so super cool how both of my lanes intersect. I'm a health coach and I'm a business coach. And one of the things we tell individuals when I'm training my coaches and teaching them how to have a successful coaching business, it is one of the things you have to articulate to the prospect in order to close the sale is you have to make sure the prospect understands the cost of inaction, the cost of not taking action with you, right?
Mm,
It's the same thing in your health. In order to give your health an assignment, some of us already know what our assignment is and we know we've been being disobedient.
right.
For others of us, it might take a little more work, and that's okay. So I want you to sit down and calculate what's the cost of you being unwell. And you don't even have to think in the future. You can probably look in the past so far up to this point. What has being unwell cost you, and what has being physically, mentally, and emotionally unwell cost you? Not just physically. We got to look from the neck down and the neck up. What has having brain fog cost you?
Mm,
What
mm-hmm,
has having memory loss and an inability to concentrate cost you? What has having
mm,
emotional instability because you don't have emotional intelligence cost you? What has being overweight cost you? It probably cost me opportunities when I was overweight because I was one of those people who tried to say, I belong in the background and I don't like to be in the front. No, no, no. You too insecure to be in the foreground. It's not that you don't belong there. So being overweight was costing me my assignment and my voice.
mm,
And so, what is the cost of inaction if you don't fully lean in and surrender to optimal health, what's required to get optimal health? So, how do we begin to give our health an assignment? We take the time out to calculate the cost of inaction. What has it cost me up until this point? And what's the potential of what it could cost me in the future?
mm. That's powerful. That's
Mm.
powerful. You said something that I thought was so rich. You said, eat like you got some sense. What is
Talk to him,
what is
Harold.
that?
Talk to him.
What is that? What does that mean? Because I was like, now wait a minute. I was like, because you know what? In our culture,
Yeah,
I think we have accepted certain conditions like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure runs in our family. And I hear people say that so often, even in my own family. Like
yeah,
we have accepted this as true. And what I know is that it's the habits that lead to these diseases,
that's right.
that runs in our families oftentimes. But what does that mean? Eat like you got some sense.
Listen, Harold, I'm telling you right now. First of all, everybody that ain't eating right intuitively knows what it means. All right. But I'm willing to break it down.
Right, right, right.
But I'm willing to break it. So I actually did a live on my YouTube channel not too
Mm,
long ago for answering this exact question. Like you guys
mm,
hear me say all the time to eat like you got some sense, but let's turn it into for my type A people like me who are detailed and need a structure and need a strategy and need a framework. I'm gonna give you one because what you're not gonna give me is an excuse next time I say it.
Mhm.
So here is the acronym for sense. Eat like you have some sense, 5-letter acronym. So really quickly, the S stands for just stop drinking that mess. One of the
Mm.
ways we inflame the body, one of the ways we cause the body to be more acidic than alkaline, one of the ways we keep packing on the calories without any nutritional benefit is we're drinking a whole bunch of trash, right? Whether it's a dairy based drink, a sugar laden drink, right? We're just drinking empty calories, whether it's full of chemicals, right? Your energy drinks that is full of food dyes and colorants and preservatives. And so the first and easiest way to start eating like you have some sense is to start drinking like you have some sense. Let's hydrate with the water. You need those electrolytes. Let's just use pure coconut water. Let's actually be intentional about fueling the body with liquids in a healthy way, fresh juices, fresh green smoothies, right? So stop drinking that mess. The first E in sense stands for eat fruits and vegetables every single day. It's funny to me how people will be regimented with a pill or a powder, Harold. Like they will, I take my scoop of whatever every day, or I take my multivitamin every day. It's like you're so regimented with a supplement. Be just as regimented with the source that the supplement comes from. Just get it straight from the source. And so we have to eat our sustenance. We have to eat and chew our vitamins and minerals every day. So I want people to intentionally eat plants every day. Eat colorful, eat them as close to their original form as possible. Don't overcook them. Don't put a bunch of butter and cream and saturated fat on top of them, but really eat your medicine if you want to heal the body from the inside out. And then the N in sense stands for never count calories. One of
Mm.
the challenges that we have is that we often, especially if your goal is weight loss, like mine was in the beginning, I made this mistake initially with thinking that the only thing that mattered for weight loss was how many calories I was eating. But as we know, all calories aren't created equal. And so there's a healthy way to lose weight and there's an unhealthy way to lose weight. So, yes, you can restrict your calories, but that doesn't mean you're extending your life. You can eat a smaller version of the fries and the burgers and the fried food and absolutely get less calories in, but that still clogs your arteries. And so we want to avoid counting calories. And what we really should be micromanaging is vitamins and minerals. Most people look at their plate and they micromanage it from a macronutrient standpoint, proteins, carbs, and fats. But what we should be doing is managing our plate from a micronutrient standpoint. Where's my vitamins and minerals? Right? That's
Mm.
the stuff that promotes and prevents and combats disease and at the same time gets your weight down. The second S in the word sense stands for start and stop at the same time. So, this is speaking to intermittent fasting. This is speaking to training your body when to expect food. This is speaking to giving your digestive system a rest. I'm actually in the middle of a water fast right now. So, I haven't eaten since Thursday night. And it's really important that we make sure that we teach and train our body when to expect food, when to eat. But then the other part of that is a lot of us have lost our power to food, which means we let our emotions tell us when to eat. So we're not hungry at midnight or whatever, but we're in our feelings, or we can't sleep, or we eat out of boredom, whatever it is. But whatever the reason is, it ain't got nothing to do with disease prevention and biological necessity. It has
Mhm.
everything to do with how I'm feeling or what looks good or what I have a taste for. But if you create boundaries around your eating times, it's like, hey, I don't care what's going on. I don't eat after 7. I don't care what's going on. I don't eat before 10 a.m., right?
Mm.
Because I'm going to train them. Number one, I'm going to take my power back and I'm going to be in control. But then, number two, also from a biological standpoint, I really give my body now the freedom to work magic for me because it's not expending so much energy on digestion.
Mm.
And then
Mhm.
finally, this acronym SENSE, the second E in Eat Like You Got Some Sense stands for eliminate ultra processed food. And I don't care if you're vegan or not vegan, this goes for all of us. There is what we call SOS. When we do our 30-day challenge, it's a 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar free challenge. Vegan food, animal based food, whatever it is so processed with excess salt, oil, and sugar And so
Hmm.
all of that ultra processing really makes it difficult for us to achieve the most optimal version of ourselves. And so we want to eliminate ultra processed food, which is not the same as eliminating all processed food. For many of us, it's impossible to eliminate all processed food. Like many of us are
Hmm.
just going to live conveniently in some ways. Like I don't care what happens here. I'm never going to make my own peanut butter, for example. Like
Right,
I'm
right,
going to pay for peace. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
There's just
right,
some things I'm willing to pay for. So it's
right.
not saying that, you need to make everything from scratch and everything needs to be homemade or whatever. If you want to, that's fine. If you want to grow your own food, but I prefer to live in concrete jungles and high rises. I ain't about to have no garden hero, but I'm
Right,
willing to support the people that do, right?
right,
So
right.
there's just some things that I'm willing to pay for peace for. So it's not eliminating all processed food, but it's the ultra processed junk that's full of preservatives, that's full of food dyes, that's full of MSG, that's full of all of this junk that really has shown to lead to disease for us. So that is the final E, and that's how you eat like you got some sense.
So, a lot of people I hear talk about, I can have these ribs every now and then, eating in moderation. And I'm like, I never quite understood what that meant to eat in moderation. And, what's the barometer? Talk a little bit about people eating a little bit of poison here, a little bit of poison there, and I'll be okay. Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so you've officially triggered me. I'm triggered now, Harold. Thank you very much. Okay. That is my trigger where every stage I step on, I try and tell them to get that moderation mess out of their system. Okay, here we go. So, first of all, let's put moderation in perspective. Similar to what you just said, moderation is not even a real place.
Mm,
Okay. If I was to ask you and 10 other people, what is moderation? You guys will have 10. Well, moderation for me is once a week. Well, moderation for me is every 2. Well, moderation for me is once a month. Moderation for me is once a year. Like moderation ain't even a real place. It's a
mhm.
term we've made up to give ourselves permission to do everything we ain't supposed to do. Because don't nobody moderate kale or spinach. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
It's a mess. So we just giving ourselves permission to make ourselves feel good about doing some nonsense. First of all, moderation is not a real place. But the most important thing we need to understand about moderation is you have two protocols when you're approaching your diet. If you're battling something, like if you're in the midst of A1C is high, if you're in the midst of battling cancer, if you're in the midst of battling an autoimmune condition, a reproductive health challenge, fibroids, erectile dysfunction, if you got high blood pressure, if you have kidney failure, fatty liver disease, I don't care what it is. If you're in the midst of battling something, you have officially lost your privilege of moderation. We have to understand that moderation is a privilege, not a right. We've been treating it like a right, like we entitled to moderation, no matter the circumstances. No, 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 honey. Moderation is circumstantial. Your
Mhm.
circumstances have dictated that you have lost your right to moderation. Because let's be clear, moderation is what got you the diagnosis. You
Right.
moderated yourself to diabetes. You moderated yourself to obesity. You moderated yourself to kidney failure and dialysis. It wasn't one meal that did that. It was moderation.
Right, right,
You
right,
had some
right.
vegetables along the way these last couple years. You had some fruit along the way the last couple years, and you had some mess. And now here we are. Right? You
Mm,
moderated yourself to this condition. What makes you think that you're going to use the same strategy that got you sick to get you well? You're not going
mm,
to get a smaller bag of chips or eating only a few cookies instead of a sleeve of cookies or just treating yourself to the pizza because it's your birthday or it's Thanksgiving, so I'm entitled to this mess. You already sick.
right.
So here it is. There's two protocols. I said there's two protocols when we approach our diet. The first one is a treatment protocol. The second one is a maintenance protocol. Moderation falls in a maintenance protocol. What that implies is you've already done the work to get well. And it is at that point we can possibly entertain moderation for some things. But if you're in a battle right now, and let me be clear, hypertension and high cholesterol is a battle. We have to stop acting like some of these things aren't as urgent as something like cancer. It's
Mhm.
all urgent, right?
Yeah.
So if you're on medications for something, if you got gut and gastrointestinal issues, you got skin issues, or let's talk about mental health, depression, anxiety, food can help treat that stuff. If you're in treatment, you need to treat it like treatment, and abstinence is what needs to replace moderation if you're on a treatment protocol. And then moderation can be entertained once you've done the hard work of getting
Mhm.
yourself to a 12 out of 10.
That's it. That's it. You know, it was so interesting when I was going through my own cancer experience and I started changing my diet. It was difficult for people, family and friends, and particularly around holidays because folks want you to eat their food and they get offended when you don't. And my thing was, I'm trying to live. And I have adopted the mindset that nothing tastes as good as healthy feels.
Mm.
And when you start fueling your body differently, those things that I used to eat, I don't even have the desire for them,
Nope.
especially how they make me feel. Like
Yes.
I remember back in the day, I was addicted to dairy and I would eat like pints of ice cream. I put cheese on everything. And every time I would eat it, I would always have flu-like symptoms. I would always have the itis, be tired and lethargic.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel like that. You know, I was in Louisiana and they got food everywhere. And I was like, oh, that stuff smells good. But I know how it's, if I were to eat some of that, I know how it would make me feel. And I'm
Yes.
not willing to exchange how I feel for a bite of whatever, you
That's
know?
so good. That's so good. During our last 30-day challenge, someone asked me about consistency and how can I stay consistent? I
Mm,
said, you got to develop a keen memory, meaning exactly what you just said.
mm,
Remember how it makes you feel. The part of the reason it's so easy for me to eat clean consistently is because I vividly remember how it made me feel. I remember feeling sluggish. I remember having memory loss. I remember having brain fog. Like I remember just feeling chunky. You know, when you
mm,
eat some mess and the next day or two,
mm.
you just feel you
Yeah, it's
feel
just
it.
like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, how can you keep going back when you remember you already know how it's going to make you feel? So it's absolutely, we have to have muscle memory when it comes to recalling us feeling less than the best version of ourselves. And now, a word from our sponsor. Oh, wait, that's me. I'm the sponsor. This episode is being brought to you by the Plant Protocol's 30-day salt, oil, and sugar-free vegan challenge. Weight loss, stabilized blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol, mental clarity, increased exercise, healthy relationship with food, sugar and fast food addictions eradicated. Those are just some of the results our challengers got during our last challenge, and it's going to be even better next time. If you want to experience the power of plants, if you want to learn more about what it's like to live a whole food, plant based lifestyle, and you need to do that in community with experienced coaches, with live interactive classes, say less. This challenge is for you. It only takes a minute to click the link in the show notes to get registered. Go tell three of your friends to tell three of their friends that it's time to come get this health. Get this transformation. Get registered. We're kicking off Prep Month on December 1st. The challenge officially begins January 1st. And from now until then, we'll be dripping masterclasses and content and recipes to you to get your mind and your body ready for a phenomenal transformation. It's time to come get this health. Now back to the show.
And you know, one of the things when I was going through my own experience with cancer, one of the things I realized that food was a part of that diagnosis, but another big part was stress. I had been stressed for decades and
Mm,
gone back to childhood trauma that I never had dealt with
mm,
that was a contributing factor to that diagnosis. And I think a lot of us, we don't realize how stressed out we are because it's just normal for us to wake up worry, go to
yeah.
bed worry.
Mm,
Talk about like some things that people could do to help deal with it because I mean life is stressful. And then what happens though when we're stressed out, we tend to do things that aggravate the stress. So we tend
mm,
to go for comfort food that,
yeah.
you know, supposed to make us feel better, but it's
Yeah.
actually worsening everything. Everything.
Telling you. Oh, my. So, thank you for asking this question because one of the challenges we sometimes tend to have when it's time to get healthy is that like it's really about diet and exercise, diet. And so we try and maneuver those two things, right? Okay, maybe I need to increase my exercise. Okay, what type of exercise should I be doing? Lisa, what time of day should I be exercising? What do I eat? Lisa, give me a power food. What's the best food to lose weight? And they're only looking at diet and exercise. But there are several other factors that impact our health, and stress is definitely one of them. And there are two types of stress: acute and chronic. Acute is what we should expect from life. Chronic kills. Okay.
Mm,
Acute is usually time bound. That's number one. So it's not something where I'm in a situation, I have no idea when I'm going to get out of it. I don't know how, I don't have any type of strategy to move forward. Acute stress is typically time bound. And the best type of acute stress is purposeful. Like I'm
mm.
writing a book right now, kind of stressful. It's my first book. I don't know how these multi-book authors do it, Harold. I'm like, what in the devil was this? Like it's, oh my God.
Right.
So it's kind of stressful, but it's time bound. It's going to get done. I got the first draft already, ready to go to an editor, and it's so purposeful, right?
Mm,
It's about
mhm.
radical obedience. I plan to help tons of people with it. So it's a feel good stress, right?
Yeah.
And that's how all stress should be. But many of us are battling chronic stress, which is ongoing. We have no exit strategy. It doesn't feel purposeful or aligned, right? And it really drives down the vibrational frequency of our body. It causes us to have ruminating, unproductive thoughts, and it causes us to draw conclusions about our life that makes us feel hopeless and helpless. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out. I'm taking care of a care. I'm a caregiver to someone that's stressful. There's no way for me to get out of this. Like all these things people say about, but here's what we got to understand about chronic stress. It's been my experience as a coach and coaching hundreds of people through these type of scenarios that it's not that the circumstance itself is stressful. It's our perception of the circumstance that's stressful.
Mm,
Oftentimes, the stress comes from our perception of our own circumstances. So, like
mm,
when COVID came, I used to teach a class every first Saturday of the month called Get Planted, an introduction to a whole food plant based lifestyle. And I taught that class for 5 years straight. And so I started class in 2017. Of course, COVID came in 2020. And from 2017 to 2020, the class was in person. And I rented out a space, invited people to come out once a month, every first Saturday. And we had a good time. I taught for 2 hours. It was great. COVID said, go in the house. Right. And so
mhm,
for someone who ran classes and courses in person, that was stressful. For
mm,
me, I decided to perceive that as an opportunity to reach more people. Oh, I can reach people in Cali now because we're going to go virtual. I didn't shut the class down. We didn't miss a beat. I saw it as an opportunity. So everything is about how we perceive our circumstances. Yes, you're a caregiver and it takes a lot out of you. But I have a best friend who was a caregiver to her mom before she passed of brain cancer. And she was so grateful for the opportunity to take care of her mom during her final
mm,
months versus seeing it like my whole life is upside down now. And so the way to get out from under chronic stress is one, to try your best to change your perception of what you're
mm,
experiencing and find the blessing and the gratitude in it. The second way, more tangible, is going to be creating what I call an exit and an enter strategy. So when
mm,
we're in an undesirable circumstance, we have to sit down and create an exit strategy. One of the worst messages we've ever been given about stress is that we should be managing it. You got to manage the stress. You got to be, take time off, breathe, meditate, yoga, count to 10, self-care days, vacation. That's how you manage acute stress. That's what I do in the midst of writing this book.
mm, mm.
Stress management is a thing, but we're
Right,
using it on the wrong problem.
right.
Okay. So we should not be managing chronic stress. We should be eliminating chronic stress. Elimination of it requires an exit strategy. And what I find stands in the way between somebody and an exit strategy is a decision.
Mm,
It's not that we, in most cases, we don't know what to do, it's that we're avoiding making tough decisions. So we're staying in this gray area and it's causing us to be overwhelmed, right? Because
right.
you know your options, but you're unwilling to pull the trigger on that thing. And so we need an
Mm,
exit strategy. But then, Harold, here's the end piece. When you sit down and create the exit strategy, i.e., make some decisions and make a move, right? Then you have to realize that exit strategy only gets you out of the circumstance. Now we need an enter strategy to get into where we really want to be. See, exiting from chronic disease is not the same as entering into optimal health. See, exiting
right.
from debt is not the same as entering into financial freedom, right? Exiting from your 9 to 5 is not the same as entering into entrepreneurship. So you need an enter strategy and an exit strategy on both sides. Most people are so overwhelmed about getting out of the circumstance that they don't have a strategy for getting getting into where they truly want to be. And so we
Mm,
need strategies for both. And that's how we combat chronic stress.
that's good. Make a decision, make a move, and have a strategy for where you're going to.
That's
Where
it.
are you going to? Where are you going?
That's it.
Wow. So, Lisa, let's say someone right now is dealing with either a health challenge or they're dealing with obesity and they want to become plant based.
Mhm.
How do they make that transition?
Okay, first of all, it's not a transition, it's a decision. So
Mm,
they
ooh,
boop,
listen, it's a decision. Okay, come
that's
on,
all it
come on.
is. That's
Listen,
all
decision.
it is.
Okay, come on,
They
come
can be
on, come
plant-based before the end of this podcast. And
on.
so let's be clear. There's some things in life that require a transition.
Yeah.
There's other things in life that requires a decision. First thing you need is discernment to know what requires what and when.
Mm, mm,
Being plant-based or getting healthy just requires a decision. It don't You and I both know it don't take 2 years to get off of sugar. Quit playing with me. It don't take all that time to stop eating that mess. It doesn't.
right,
Am I
right,
right?
right.
So in this case, going plant based, if you desire to take a whole food plant-based approach to achieving the most optimal version of yourself, you can do that before I snap my fingers. Just make
Mm,
the decision. The other
mm,
thing that people typically need though is permission.
mm,
So overwhelmingly, all of us have been given permission to be sick. We
mhm,
literally have permission to be sick. Like we
mhm,
have rhetoric that tells us when we get older, things are supposed to fall apart. When you get older, you're gonna lose your memory. When you get older, it's normal to be on at least one medication. We watch family and friends age unwell. And so
mhm,
we have all around us, we have rhetoric in our ear telling us everything in moderation and all that mess. We have been given permission to be sick.
mm.
Nobody's been given permission to be optimally healthy,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And so we need to make decisions and we need permission. So, what does that look like? That means you want to latch on to somebody like yourself, latch on to somebody like me, and use us as a possibility model.
Mm,
Everybody have models of what it looks like to be sick, to be unwell, to be compromised. And that gives us permission. Like obesity is all around us.
mm,
70% of the population is on at least one prescription drug. We got permission. We can normalize. All I got to do is take my blood pressure pill, take my statin for my cholesterol. We have permission. There's no shame in that. The
mm.
issue is nobody has given you permission not to be that. Nobody has given you permission to say just one medication is still a problem. Nobody's
Right.
giving you permission to say just a few pounds overweight is still a problem. Nobody's giving you permission to be a 12 out of 10. Nobody's
Mm,
giving you permission to age well. You know it's
mm,
possible. But
mm,
the opposite of that is so ubiquitous. And so,
mm,
what you need is a possibility model. So, the first thing
mm,
you need is to start making decisions and get this transition language up out of your ecosystem. And the next
mm,
thing you need is a possibility model. That possibility model can come in the form of a coach, it can come in
mhm,
the form of a mentor, it can come in the form of a class, whatever it is. But if you have everything around you gives you permission to be sick, you need to get in the ecosystem where they're giving you permission to be optimal, and you stop thinking that just a little bit won't hurt or just one medication ain't that bad or I'm supposed to lose my memory as I get older.
mm,
You need permission.
mm. That is so, so powerful. Our culture has given us permission to be unwell. Like it is acceptable. It is normalized. They
Yes.
normalized it.
And people we trust. Your doctor has given you permission to be sick. He says this runs in your family. You're going to be
Right.
on this for the rest of your life. They literally gave you permission to have diabetes for 20 years. Get out of here. That's
Right.
ridiculous. It's
Wow.
ridiculous. And so
Mm,
now you have to go somewhere where they're selling something different because our
mhm.
healthcare providers have given us permission. Our government has given us permission. Yeah, just put a scoop of dairy on every plate.
Right.
Right? Everybody
Mm,
gives you permission to eat the things that is disease promoting. Everybody gives you permission to be on medication. They tell you it runs in your family. They're telling you your genes are the reason
right.
you got
Right.
this. So
Right.
we got to
Right.
entertain a different option. We got to entertain a second opinion.
Mm. Wow. That's so good. So Lisa, I know folks are going to want to know how to get in contact with you. They're going to want to connect with you. How can they do that?
Yes. Well, listen, don't come over here with no mess now. I'm telling you right now. If you're going to follow me and connect with me, make sure you're ready to come get this help because I'm not playing with y'all. So, the best way, if you want to hear and see all my shenanigans, is going to be social media. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Lisa Angel Smith, full government, Lisa Angel Smith on all social media platforms. And that's the best way to get tapped into, when we're hosting our 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge, our coaching programs. We have Farm to Table plant-based coaching program. Then we have the Plant Protocol Business Accelerator. And then I have private one-on-one coaching VIP days as well. And so plenty of coaching opportunities, plenty of free opportunities to work with us. The challenge is free. My recipe book, I just give that away for free. And so I would say just follow at Lisa Angel Smith on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. Send me a private message if you listen to this podcast episode. Let me know you heard me on Good Living Now and you need help. And so we got to start asking for help. We got to start calling out for help. We got to start raising our hand for help. And so, and then anybody wants to book me to speak, that's going to be through my website, lisaangelsmith.com. And I'm happy to come snatch your audience edges. You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.